Subscribe to our channel by clicking the subscribe button. Click the bell button and enjoy the latest uploads from our channel.
Magandang gabi, Pilipinas! Kapurang Pilipinas, magandang gabi. Ngayon ay Setyembre 18, taon 2021. And welcome sa Alien Talk. Unfortunately, my partner won't be available tonight. Instead, Mr. Francis Tanseco will be our guest co-host. And we are delighted to have a guest, a special guest. And not so often, not too often, every once in a while, once in a blue moon that we have an English guest. It's very rare. That's why you don't hear me speak English all the time. But now, I'm obliged because we have a special guest. Her name is Miss Rosa Montague. But before I introduce our guest, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Francis Tanseco, taking the place of my partner, Mang Ardo. Magandang gabi sa iyo, Francis.
Good evening po at good morning dito sa akin. Anong oras ba rito? 5 o'clock in the morning where I'm at in Arizona. At good morning, good evening, good whatever sa lahat ng mga listeners po ninyo. At salamat po muli.
And of course, I'd like to thank you for facilitating me to have Rosa Montague as for our guesting tonight. No, because without you, I won't be having Rosa Montague with us. So with not much further ado, let's introduce Miss Rosa Montague, an English psychic from the Newcastle upon Tyne in England. Good evening and good morning to you over there, Rosa.
Hi, and thank you for the opportunity to be on the show.
We're very delighted to have you. And it's my first time to interview an English woman, actually.
This has all come as such a surprise because Francis and I did that interview a year ago. And then last week, the one that Filipino Future made just went viral overnight. And I woke up to all these messages, beautiful messages from Filipino people. And I didn't understand what was going on. Until Francis discovered what had happened with the video. So I'm still in shock.
In fact, this interview is long overdue. 2 years ago, or more than a year ago, when Francis sounded off the idea, but I wasn't really confident about my English. That's why I told Francis that we have to postpone that for a while, and I really have to keep abreast with my English. Now,
I think your English is very good, and I'm ashamed to say it's the only language I speak. So, well done, you.
Well, Francis speak highly of you, very esteemingly about your psychic ability, and of course, the video that went viral had to do with famous family, but we will discuss that later. There are a few things that I'd like to know. How long have you been a psychic, Rosa?
I think it's something you always have. We all do. I always ask people to think of it like art. You know, some people are born with a great gift. They can draw or paint before they can walk. Others, it comes in a little bit later. Some have to work hard at it, but they'll get there in the end, or they'll it's about exploring the abilities you have. Some people never ever go there because it scares them or because they don't think they have any abilities. And of course, each and every one of it, it starts with your intuition. That thing where you know who's ringing you before you look at your phone. That's all I've done is build on that. So I've explored that and refined it and taught myself how to channel, how to protect myself.
So you started off with the idea of dabbling around this idea of being a psychic, and you weren't scared. Some people say that you dabble with magic, then you're looking for trouble if you don't know how to protect yourself.
Yes, I think it's a good idea. I think, there are so many people who are diagnosed with mental health issues. And really, it's that they haven't found out where the on-off switch is, or they haven't learned how to protect themselves. They're sensitive to energy. There are so many people around at the moment who have been diagnosed with things like bipolar, and they don't realize that they're simply empathic. They're sensitive to energy. They feel the anger and pain. And I can leave my house feeling euphoric, but if I walk through a big shopping mall, I feel sick and I have a headache. If I don't put proper protection in place, because it's, you soak it up like a sponge.
Okay. So when you toy around the idea of going psychic or being a psychic, what were your first experiences, and how were you able to manage it? And by the time that you'd been seeing spirits or feeling them, what did you do?
I think my grandma used to take me to spiritualist church when I was 16. And she used to get the family photo albums out, excuse me, and show me, point out spirits in photographs. And I was absolutely fascinated. When she took me to spiritualist church, they told me that I had the star of healing on my forehead, and then I should be sitting in a developing circle to develop my abilities. But, at 17, I wasn't ready to sit in church 5 nights a week. So it was as time went on, and I would get feelings about things, feel things intuitively. And I carried on exploring. So I bought different packs of tarot cards, and I used to play with the Ouija board. I used to make my own. I used to draw a circle around a plate and just put the letters in. And I've known the glass fly off the table. But I was lucky. I was blessed in that I think I've always been protected before I learned. And then when I started doing it, for family and friends, I suffered a psychic attack, and I learned really fast.
So weren't you terrified by the experience? And hadn't you tell yourself not to try it again, or to play with this anymore? Because it's a terrifying experience to me.
I think I understood early on that if you had someone knocking on your front door giving you abuse, you would tell them to go away. And if they didn't listen to you when you told them politely, you would be more forceful about it. What people don't understand is that it works the same way in the spirit world. If you tell them to back off, they have to go. And it's really that simple. So I'll be asked to go to somebody's house to clear it of negative energy, or they believe they're being tormented by an evil spirit, and they will have had priests and paranormal investigators, all kinds of people. My job is to empower them. Yes, I can clear the house, I can clear the energy, but my job is to teach them how to believe in themselves enough to just send it away, because otherwise it'll come back to play as soon as I leave the house.
Okay, so your psychic ability is not only limited to reading tarot cards, but you also engage in clearing negative spirits, seance, talking to spirits. Are those the part of the jobs that you do? Are those part of the things that you do as a psychic consultant?
Yes. Psychometry is another one. People will often bring an object belonging to a deceased, and I can usually pick up from that. I can pick up anyway. Excuse me.
So
Um,
yeah, so you use different materials, and that's not limited to tarot cards at all. But you
oh
also
no,
use some relics, artifacts that you could use to connect with the other with the people or with the
the
in the
spiritual
other
realms.
dimension.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm a healer. I'm also clairvoyant. So the tarot cards for me are simply a tool of divination. Some people use the I Ching, some people use runes, some people use a crystal ball. That's just
Mm-mm.
my chosen method. I'm a very unconventional tarot reader. You know, there are many, many experts who know far more about the tarot than I do. For me, and I suppose it's the same with what people would call witchcraft. Casting the circle and all that kind of thing is
Yeah.
about setting your intention. It's about setting the scene. We love ceremony, don't we?
Hmm.
So it just, so I could deal 5 cards for you, and I could deal the same 5 cards for somebody else, but the story that builds up around the cards and the information I get psychically and clairvoyantly will be different
So
in
these things
every individual.
that these things that you where you are at now, this did not happen to you overnight. You have to hone your talent as a psychic or a clairvoyant. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Or you have to educate yourself by reading books all the time and
Yeah,
do
it's,
and
I think
practice what you read from the books
a
and
friend of
correct it.
mine, a friend of mine once said, your guides will teach you. You can have as many qualifications as you like. And when I first started doing it, I was about to do it for a charity. I did a lot of voluntary work after I graduated from university. And she said, throw the book away and sleep with the high priest under your pillow for about 3 weeks until you really feel and understand the card, and then put it back in the pack and do the same with the high priestess and so on. And that's how it's worked. I mean, yes, I book learned them initially. And it's very often other people that tell you what your talents are. It was certainly other people that told me that I had healing abilities.
You mentioned about intuition
Yeah.
as part of your talent or as part of your clairvoyant,
Clairvoyant.
clairvoyant ability. But do you have a familiar spirit with you? A spirit that guides you or that tells you from behind, so somebody don't see, but been murmuring or saying something to you, and
I
that's
have
what you relay
several.
also to the other person.
I have several.
That's
Um, my paternal grandfather works with me. After I did some voluntary work in Africa, I had the grandmother of the founder of the orphanage offer her services as a guide in thanks for the work that I'd done out there. I used to have a Highlander, great character, brilliant, but it's and Native American presence is quite strong, but they change according to what you're doing at the time. You will get a different guide come in when you're about to do something or undertake a certain piece of work, or maybe to do with the area. So they change quite often.
And do they vanish, disappear, or they transpose to another dimension? That's why they're gone, and then somebody would replace them or take their place.
They do, but you can always call on them. I've never had one ignore me when I've called them back. At the time, I was doing a lot when I had the Highlander. I was doing a lot of. I had done a past life regression where I was taken back to a previous life in Scotland. I keep mentioning this because it was a huge step forward. But my friend Anne Marie, and I bet you she listens to this and says, "Oh my God," she was qualifying to be a hypnotherapist. So I did a past life regression with her. And that's when that guide stepped in, because I've had several past lives in Scotland. I used to get emotional looking at Arthur's Seat in Edinburgh, or when I got off the train on the West Coast. I think those situations are resolved now. But the fascinating thing was that the people who were around me when I did that regression were also around me in that particular point in my life. So that would, for me, we incarnate in soul groups, soul families, and we're here to learn and we're here to resolve issues.
So how old is the oldest? How old is the oldest soul that you mingle with or commune with?
Well,
Or
I was going back as far as the 13th century in Scotland.
and they're still earthbound. Are you
No,
saying?
I don't think he's earthbound at all. I think he helps. I think he assists when there's need.
And they come
But
to
I
you
suspect-
speedily.
Sorry?
By just they would come to you speedily or quickly by just
Yes.
mentioning or by just calling or uttering their names.
Yes. Instantly.
Instantly. Francis, would you have any questions that you'd like to address to Rosa?
Well,
Please.
not really at this point. I'm fascinated because I've learned something again just now from Rosa about the high priestess being put on your under your pillow, because I'm also interested in tarot. I have been uh, trying to do it as well, and I like the fact that she said about uh don't buy the books, because I did bought the book, and it doesn't really, I'm not inspired to do it, but whenever I do it, here's my tarot card. I kind of like get something sort of spontaneous. But now I know what I'm going to do for the next 3 weeks. I'm going to put the high priestess under my pillow. Can I put just all of it, or just maybe the high priest and the high priestess as well?
I think you would be overwhelmed, overloaded with information and it could be confusing.
Okay.
It's a bit like somebody coming to me and saying, I want to ask you about relationships. Well, what exactly? Are we focused on a specific person? Are you looking at a relationship that's broken up? Give me a clue? I'm a psychic. I'm not a magician. I'm not God.
And I wonder whether there's a reason why is it 3 weeks?
I don't know. That's just what she said. But I think the gist of that is get a feel for the cards rather than, I don't think there's anything wrong with learning the meanings from a book, because I think if you're going to do it for other people, it gives you confidence, because at least you know something. You know what the original intention was of the card. And Crowley's interpretations are fascinating. The Rider-Waite pack that you just held up there, for example, I found it too literal, but it is the standard pack. It's the basic idea of the tarot. Crowley's cards, my pack is very old and dilapidated now. They're about 25 years old. But if I show you the illustrations on them.
Crowley's card. Are those Crowley's card?
Those are Crowley's cards. Now, let me tell you a story.
Alistair Crowley?
Yes.
Oh.
But, like I said, I've talked people out of suicide with those cards. So whatever the intentions were of the man himself, he left a great legacy.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
This particular pack has 3 different versions of the magician. I've had the smaller version and it doesn't. But a friend of mine who uses the same deck, hers has 3 different versions of the fool. So explain to me how that happened in mass-produced cards. Okay. How did we end up with 3 different versions of the magician in one pack and 3 different versions of the fool in another? And I've had people who are experts on everything Crowley, and they haven't seen the other 2 versions of the magician ever. So I'm scared to replace that pack of cards, because even though they're falling apart, because I don't think I'll get the same again. And there's obviously something quite unique about them.
Well, my knowledge about the cards are quite limited, so I can't relate too much about it. But my understanding too with Aleister Crowley is that he was a great magician, an English great magician.
He was certainly that. A lot of people say that he's a Satanist. I think he was certainly too much for Victorian England. You know, he was kicked out of Italy because he opened what was probably the world's first commune. So he's an interesting guy. I've heard Teal Swan, I don't know if you've ever come across her, say he's still under contract. But I have had, clairvoyantly, I have had communication with Crowley. So interesting character, but let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yes. Now you have a bachelor degree in sociology, and this thing, I think this would perfectly match the vocation that you're into right now, because you've been seeing people with different problems, especially in communicating with the departed ones. So what are the common things that they ask of you? Why would they want somebody from who has already departed to speak to that dead person? And what's the common cause?
I
And
think
what are the common problems that they seek about?
it's interesting because up until 2 or 3 years ago, people would, when I asked them what they wanted to ask me, because I usually start with a general reading and then move on to their specific questions or areas of their life needing clarification, and they would almost always go relationships, money, health. And that kind of amused me, because I used to think, well, how are you going to enjoy the first two if you don't have the last one? But over the past couple of years, people look at me blankly quite often. They have no idea what they want to ask. And I think that says something about where we are collectively. I think so many people are feeling stuck in limbo. When they want to ask about their loved ones in spirit, it's very often because they're grieving, because there's a question that they didn't get answered when that person was on the earth plane. They usually want to know they're okay. You know, are they happy? Are they okay? Or they want to apologize for something they think they've done. I'm sorry that I wasn't there at the time, that kind of thing. So many reasons, but the questions do follow certain trends.
And commonly, how would the souls of these dead folks would say? How are they doing? Are they happy, or are they in somewhere that would put them in great misery?
No, I've come across those who don't come through very clearly. I always get the impression that's because they're busy doing something else. Or I've had them say, well, I still have some work to do. There are still things I have to resolve, but I'm okay. I've had, for example, I had a wife beater, someone who was violent, and a relative of his was wanting to ask the question, why? And the answer I got was, she forgave me. She put up with it. And I blocked his energy at that point. There was absolutely no remorse there. So, you can't choose who you talk to.
Francis, your turn.
I went blank listening to that one. My question really would be perhaps for later, because it's too early to ask it. It has something to do with when during our session with Rosa. I mean, Rosa, you can or you may not want to answer. This is up to you, really, completely. Just because there will be the coming election in the Philippines will be coming this 2022, and it's going to be, you know how it is with political stuff. They get crazy and all that. I just wonder, because during our session you did I think the spirit of the former president Ferdinand Marcos suddenly appeared during our session, and he has a message to BBM, and perhaps I wonder if he can come again at this point during this session, and if he has a message to the country. He died in Hawaii, and you were quite right when you said that he's there's this guy who's died of a chest condition, because in fact when he died he has a ventilator to keep him alive in Hawaii.
I'm getting, he's pointing away from the Philippines. There is something that has to be monitored or watched away from the Philippines. I'm getting the impression, and you are putting me on the spot here, Francis.
I'm sorry. I told you don't need to answer it. I mean,
I know. It's okay. I know nothing really about Filipino politics, so there is some dishonesty somewhere, skullduggery I would be inclined to call it. There is something going on somewhere, and he's wanting to draw attention to it. It needs to be closely monitored.
Okay, I think I have an idea what it is.
Okay.
I think it's related to a lot of things. That includes a country called Switzerland. That includes the 911 event, and I think those are the ones that he wants to point out to.
It feels as though someone or a group of people are trying to or are about to try to cause problems, try to cause some mischief, and it needs to be monitored.
That gives me a goosebumps.
Well, in fact, they are already causing us a great misery. And, it's just a matter of time. And the people are asking when is this whole thing going to disappear, or when will this be over? So things like that, which are very uncertain at the moment.
Are you asking me that question, Anton?
That's my follow-up question. What do you see?
Okay.
When is this going to end?
I don't think it's possible to know. I think I predicted some things accurately. I always knew we were going back into lockdown. I always knew we were coming out of lockdown before Christmas because they wanted us to spend our money. But I knew we were going back into it. They are trying to do the same again. But there is so much going on behind the scenes, as you both know. And it's just when we reach that tipping point, because I feel at the moment it's move and counter move and counter move.
Yes.
And it's when would they get away with another lockdown now? We have millions protesting all over the world. So I think it's when the mass of people reaches a point where that is more powerful than their will to keep us under control. But I'm not getting any clear idea of when. I feel there is chaos that will go on for months, but I'm getting June. I don't want that. Presumably, that's because of because we've been discussing the election, though. You see. You see, the other feeling I keep getting is they need to get out of the mindset where they are constantly looking to their government, to their doctors, they're looking outside of themselves for solutions. I think new communities will have to form. We're going to have to start thinking about growing our own food. I'm not convinced that, we have one savior that's going to come in and just make everything okay.
Okay, all right. Regarding the problems that we're having, the mankind is having a problem. Are the spirits or the souls of these departed ones able to help us, or they just won't do that because it's none of their business?
I think that we always have assistants. They are always there to help, but they can't interfere with our free will. And I think certain things, it is argued that we have created this. We've allowed it to continue. So from the point of view of beings from other dimensions, shall we say, who may have the ability to help us, the argument is apparently out there. The argument is, well, why should we intervene when they're allowing this to happen themselves? I have even heard it said, when we talk about satanic rituals and let's just say blood sacrifice.
Yes.
They will say, but look at the way they treat their animals. That's just as bad. Yeah. Where is the difference? Because although we might think the life of a cow or a pig or a chicken is less important, actually every living thing on the earth has a right to a peaceful and joyful life.
As an expert, as a psychic, as a communicator with the souls or with the spirits, is there a way that we can do to defeat the influence, the evil influence that's been punishing us, and it's been tormenting us these years, all these years? Can we defeat Satan? Can we defeat the evil influences? What can we do as a collective group of people?
I think we already are. But people tend to be focused on the negative a lot of the time because that's what the TV screens are showing them. You have a guy in Turkey who puts a fridge outside of his store or his restaurant, and he puts leftover food there for the homeless. You have shops that have a coat rack outside where people can hang outdoor clothes for those who need them. So small acts of kindness everywhere mount up to a lot. And when people get together, so occasionally I organize group meditations on Facebook. We have the power to change the world when our intentions focused in a good way with love. When our intentions are good, that can overcome any evil.
Yeah,
Yes,
go ahead.
Francis. Go ahead, please. Francis.
Well, it is said that the greatest secret of secret societies that they don't want the people to know is that the people are powerful more than they ever know.
Yes.
That's why the best thing I've heard from Rosa at this session this time is stop looking at governments as savior, because I cannot think of any single government in history that has created heaven on earth at all. The only example I can think of about that are the times of Lemuria and Atlantis and those kind of moment in history. Egypt is horrible. Greece is the same. There's no single government in the world that creates heaven on earth. They just give you enough feeling of freedom to think that you are actually free, but in fact you're not, because you'll be forever indebted and also forever going to be paying taxes and all that. So I think I just believe that the time when Lemuria and Atlantis was a heaven on earth was because I understand there was an interference from outside.
Yes. People have no idea how powerful they are. And the one thing the elite is terrified of is people realizing how powerful they are. Once we all, if we all stand together and refuse to comply, it's game over. And it doesn't matter which government you have in, because it's the same people holding the purse strings. So if you watch Game of Thrones, think Iron Bank. Do you remember the Iron Bank? It's the same group of people who funded both sides of every war throughout history. And now they have us divided with our opinions about the jab. It was the same with the Scottish referendum. It was the same with Brexit. As long as they keep us distracted by disagreeing, by fighting with each other, we're not paying attention to what they're doing. So it doesn't matter who you vote in. It's not going to change anything. The only ones who can change anything, change the world, is us. We have to do it ourselves. We don't need to be governed.
So, have you found a solution, or have you found a practice that we can do worldwide so that we will be able to defeat this sinister energy that's been influencing us?
I think by working together, by being kind and compassionate towards each other. I think by exploring your own abilities, learning how to communicate with those in other dimensions yourself. Learning that you can calm a troubled situation simply by using your energy. You can heal people. You can heal areas of the earth just by focusing your intention. There is so much we can do to change things. If everybody grew one crop, if I grow tomatoes and you grow peppers, and then we can trade with each other. If you think, I don't know about the Philippines, but when you look, for example, at the Second World War, people helped each other. I wasn't alive during that time, but communities came together. They dealt with every disaster. And the same happened with the riots in the 80s. People rebuilt their own communities. But we so often don't do that. We're becoming more and more separated from the earth. We're becoming more and more separated from each other. The majority of middle-class people, they don't know who their neighbors are. And, children sit in front of screens all the time. They're not outside in the fresh air and the sunshine playing. Where I grew up, we all knew each other. So we've forgotten how to live in communities properly.
And most probably that we already have forgotten how to use our spiritual energy to topple the evil forces.
Not only that, but it is brainwashed out of us the minute we start school. They don't teach you about working with energy at school.
Correct.
And magic is either hogwash or it's evil. The one thing I liked about Harry Potter, excuse me, was that it opened children's minds to the possibility of magic.
Yeah.
Or should I say the magic of possibility? And I know there's been all sorts said about the Illuminati symbolism in the Harry Potter films, but nevertheless, every child wanted to go to Hogwarts. So did I.
If I can just add, a lot of the Illuminati symbolism are actually from a good symbolism, but they just inverted it into everything so that the intention of that symbol will become the negative. As we know already, in an atom there is there's a positive and negative side of it. So that's practically the kind of that's our matter, that's our magic. So if you have the star pointing up, then that's a good sign. But the Illuminati is using it to make it point down, so that's to invert the vibration of that symbol. So Illuminati has no what you call this originality in terms of symbolism. They just what you call it, plagiarize everything to make it negative.
They do it in every walk of life. One of my favorite celebrations is Samhain, or some people pronounce it Samhain, but it's an ancient Celtic festival on the 31st of October. So the church hijacked that and called it All Saints Day, and then it also became Halloween. If you look at on that night, so this was New Year. It was the beginning of winter. And winter is a time for going inwardly. It's a time for reflection. It's time to look at the projects that you started this year and decide what to keep and what to throw away. And people, they lit great fires from oak branches inside and outside the house, and to ward off evil spirits. And they turned their clothes inside out and blackened their faces with soot so that evil spirits wouldn't recognize them. That's where the fancy dress aspect of Halloween comes from. And, you know, winter is a time of home and hearth. It's a time of storytellers and musicians. There was a purpose for these celebrations that went with the seasons. The winter solstice is the 21st of December. There's a whole load of things that the church have hijacked about that. That's what Christmas is really about. You're celebrating the return of the light, but they've made it something else. And I'm sure in the Philippines, you will have festivals, because you very often find that they stem from indigenous peoples, and you have similar festivals at the same time around the earth, but they're called by different names.
The Nazi symbolism is actually a symbol of wealth. The Nazi symbol is actually a symbol of wealth and of motion. The German people, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, Nazi Germany converted it into something really sinister.
Yeah, they do it with language as well. The language changes over the years. Have you noticed recently how empathic has become empathetic? Why? Because it has a completely different meaning, connotation.
Pathetic.
The reverse.
Yeah.
The reverse is just the reverse of everything.
Yes.
The reverse of everything good.
Yes. Or that's what they would like.
That's what they would like.
They don't get
Now-
away with it.
Now, you mentioned earlier about Harry Potter, and you've been being hopeful or somehow positive that the younger kids would delve into magic,
Yes.
and that magic would perhaps save the world or defeat the evil or defeat Baal. As we may know it, that the Illuminatis are worshiping the Baal or the
Yeah.
great Satan, Luciferu, Rokal, the very powerful devils,
Yes.
in which they are right now at the moment are ravaging us. So you think if there's a good magician, that good magician would be able to defeat the influence of that great devil at all? What do you
I don't
think
have any
about that?
trouble with demons. I you know, communicate with them. If you have a negative entity hanging around, then ask it what it wants, and if you don't like the sound of it, tell it to go away. We have been so brainwashed into thinking we are powerless rather than powerful. But I was part of a group several years ago, and we organized a meditation to disrupt CERN. You know, that thing in Switzerland?
CERN, yes. The big collider.
Yes, we broke
Hadron
it.
collider. Okay.
We broke it.
Ah.
And I mean, this was actually published in the mainstream media. Not that we did it, but there was a mass meditation because we knew that what they were telling us they were up to wasn't actually what they were up to. You have to be careful. I'm dismayed when sometimes I have people coming to me asking if I can cast a spell for them, and it'll be very often something silly like they want a certain person's attention romantically. You never ever abuse the power you have by doing something that's against somebody else's will. And if you're going to use your abilities to hurt other people, universal law, it's going to come back to you times 3.
True.
So
true.
if you are into that sort of behavior, you're a fool. But of course, there are some with egos just so big that they don't see that. They think they can do it and get away with it.
Francis?
Oh, I'm just thinking that to use an example that is very perhaps universal and common to everyone about, you know, the law of karma, in which if you do, if you do something good to people or bad to people, then it'll come back to you almost instantly. And that's actually true. A very good example of that is when we fart. You think you think you let go of that, whatever stinky it is, but you're the one who first smell it, if you know what I mean. So
That's a
that's a
unique
very
way
good.
of putting it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the best way I could think about it, about the law of karma. So
Well, think of it like the law of attraction. If you're putting bad energy out there, if you're putting negative thoughts out there, then you're going to be swamped with them, because
yeah,
that's where you are vibrating energetically.
yeah,
If you're wishing bad things for other people, then that's the frame of mind. That's your mindset. You're only going to get more of the same yourself.
true.
If you behave towards other people with kindness, love, and compassion, it comes back to you.
That's right. That's right. So we're nearing 1 hour. Francis and Rosa has an upcoming client call. So probably let's pitch in our last question. Go ahead, Francis. If you have a final question for Rosa.
I don't really have a question at this point. I just want to say thank you very much, Rosa, for allowing this to happen and for the generosity of your time to be a guest to Anton. I think we're all in the same tribe or soul group.
Mm.
Uh, just like what Anton said earlier, that he was banned recently by YouTube, and other people has. It also happened to Ron Van Dyke.
Yes.
Yes, and that's kind of a badge of honor, isn't it? Now,
Yeah.
over target, as we say. You're obviously doing all the right things, or they wouldn't have banned you.
I mean,
Yeah.
our video on BBM, that from Filipino Future, that went, this is viral now. It has 150,000 views in 5 days. That's like 50,000 views every day. Uh, what you call this? I lost my thought there.
It's been
Yeah.
a great honor to do this show with you. I could have talked for hours, but I have a client coming here at 2.
Yes.
So, but it
But
really has been a pleasure.
before we let you go, Rosa, I need to hear from you. When will that big celebration or grand celebration that would happen here in the Philippines come true,
Well, maybe
according to your vision? The way you see it, how and when?
I'm going to stick with June next year, and I believe you have said that's when the election is.
Mhm.
But there will be smaller celebrations throughout the coming months. So I feel that there'll be small victories here and there. There will be positive changes that spur people on towards the finish line.
Many Filipinos are wishing for money to rain money. It will rain money. Yeah,
Do you know how many
will that
people
happen?
ask me for the winning lottery numbers?
How accurate? Well,
I think the world has to change completely, but I think it's changing step by step. And because they never show you these things, like there was a protest, a freedom protest in London, and it was 40 people wide and 6 miles long.
Wow.
But the BBC hardly gave it a mention. They don't want you to see that people are coming together, but they are. It's happening anyway.
yes.
On the other side of this completely, money won't be a problem for anybody. But we're just getting there a bit at a time, and we have to be patient a little bit longer.
All right. So Rosa, we hate to abrupt or to abort the show or to let you go, but we have to because you're going to prepare and meet your client in a few minutes time.
Yes.
So we'd like to thank you, and may this be our first engagement, and may we have you back in one of our episodes very soon.
I would love to come back. It's been a real pleasure. And can I just say, it was a complete surprise that interview went viral. But there was such an outpouring of love from the Filipino people. So it's been an honor and a privilege to be able to deliver a message that had value for them.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rosa.
Bye.
O, ayan po ang aming naging panauhin. Si Rosa Montague ng Inglaterra. O, kaya ako'y napasubo na naman akong mag-English.
You're very good.
Buti naman nandiyan dyan si Francis. Ano? So, Francis, maraming salamat sa pag-facilitate mo na ma-interview ko si Rosa.
Naku, ako'y kanina pang antok na kasi tawag dito, I've been trying to sleep, kaya lang, sabi ko, baka hindi ako magising sa alarm clock dahil I'm worrying about ibang oras ni Rosa, ibang oras mo, ibang oras ko din. And then at the same time, sabi ko, magliligpit na nga lang ako dito dahil you know how it is when you're moving, nakabox lahat ng gamit.
Correct. Kailan ba magre-report sa work? Report for work?
Well, I still have 1 week kasi next Monday pa ako sa 27 magwo-work. Although I requested sana this Monday. Kaya lang, yun ang naka-schedule eh. Usually rito ko na naka-schedule, yun ang mangyayari talaga.
Masarap sana makausap si Rosa tungkol sa mga ganyan bagay. Kakausap sa mga espiritu, mga ganyan.
Yeah. You actually, ang ganda ng mga mo, ang ganda ng mga questions mo sa kanya. I'm pleasantly surprised sa mga questions niyo po kasi mas may depth, may mga may mga kahulugan para doon sa kanya bilang
energetic leader. Masyado, siguro more.
No, you were very good. You were very good, kuya.
Thank you, Francis. Hanggang sa susunod. Thank you, ha. At maraming salamat dun sa tawag nito, sa pagpapagamit mo sa akin nung maharlika.
Thank you.
Gising maharlika. Kaya nagigalak ang ating mga kagising maharlika pag naririnig nila yung team song.
Yeah, very soon. Gusto ko lang sabihin na very soon meron po akong bagong song, Tayo ay Maharlika. So, pag magawa ng MTV, sana po may premiere ko po sa inyo.
Alright. Anytime, Francis. Again,
thank you.
Kung kulang ka sa tulog, mabul ka na. Maraming salamat, ha? Maraming plan. Okay, tayo po magbabalik with para sa inyong mga katanungan o mga reaksyon. Meron tayong 52 comments. At magbabalik po tayo makalipas ang isang maikling paalala.
Subscribe to our channel by clicking the subscribe button. Click the bell button and enjoy the latest uploads from our channel.
Alright. Napasubo yung ka-Anton ninyo. Salamat. Okay. Basa muna tayo para makarelax naman ako, ha. Good evening, ka-Anton at mga Ardo. Si Mang Ardo ay Pumaliban muna, pumaliban. Jack Han, 22. May Kenny Abe, thank you May Kenny. Anton Kaed, very interesting topic. I'm excited kung ano ang sasabihin. Ayan, by June daw next year. Makakaramdam daw tayo ng ginhawa. Lalo na natatapos yung eleksyon. Sana nga naman bumihit na ang kapalaran ng Pilipinas. Ani Yensen, good evening. Kay Bea Cervantes Canilao, good evening sir. Good evening din sir Bea. Ranji Cambao, good evening. Mericiel Laurente. Cesar Oralio, good evening Anton. Kay Francis Tanseco, mabuhay po kayo. At sa lahat ng nanonood. Kay Jazz Ball. Lena Leona, good evening sa iyo. Sir, napanood ko po yung YouTube video ni Sir Francis and Ma'am Rosa. Yes. At yun na nga, dahil nag-viral. Thank you. Ani Jensen, thank you for speaking a language I understand. You're so much welcome, Annie. And of course, forgive my grammar. It's not a perfect grammar, but understandable anyway. Gina Oliveros, hello, good evening po mga sir at sa lahat. God bless po. Cesar Oralio, hi po, Madam Rosa. Nice to see you at Anton's program. Lena Leona, mapapalaban ka, Anton. Oo nga, napalaban na nga. Susan Biarin, hello everyone, I'm watching from Kuwait. Ranji Cambao, Sir Anton. Sir Anton, there's no audio. Wala ba? Meron naman. Cheben Elizo, good evening. Santa Gisela Igilion, magandang araw po sa lahat ng mga viewers at sa special na panawin natin ngayon na si Madam Rosa. Teddy Simafranca, good evening sa'yo Teddy. Good evening ka Anton, kamusta ang rally kanina? Sabi ni Robert Celis. Well, sa Manila, it was a big success. Pinahintulutan sila ng pulis, walang problema. Siguro ramdam na ramdam din naman ng mga pulis yung sentimiento ng ating mga kababayan. Dito sa Iloilo, hindi ko alam kung natuloy. Raymil Songsong, good evening everyone. Raymil, may Sabiris Garcia, gandang gabi Anton at sa guest po ngayong gabi, more power. Jake Han Anaterok. Ano bang Anaterok? Coretana. Jake Coretana, good evening sa'yo. Eric Flores, sana mag-guest ninyo si Attorney Nick Nangit, isang spiritual questor at tarot reader. Saan ba siya Eric? Nick Nangit. Pilipino ba ito? O kamag-anak ni Ray? Ray Langit. Corny mo, Anton. Sige, hanapin ko kasi saan si Nick Nangit. Jake Coretana, good evening Ma'am Rosa. Gina Lagiman, good evening, greetings from Amsterdam. Hi Gina. Oh my God, I feel something beside me while I'm watching at this moment, watching from Abu Dhabi, UAE. Ay, baka may dumalaw sa yung spirito. Sabi ni Madam Rosa, kahit daw spirito na nabuhay nung nabuhay tao, 1300 years, 1300 pa. Aba, pwede raw dumulong kapag tinawag. Totoo naman. Tinatawag niya, marunong siya tumawag. Kahit nasa malayo yun, pagka subitsit lang siya, darating yun. Can you read PRRD? Because some said he has 2 clones. Sabi ni Benit Malalay Libato. Sana, natanong, are there some shoe with late Barbara Marciniak? Are in the same shoe? Palagay ko. Philippines, the biblical land of fear. Gandang gabi ka, Anton. Katrina Sevilla, kailan ay pagdiriwang ito, Madam Rosa? Sa June. BBM yung nag-viral kay BBM yun baka kay Gwen na ngayon. Kasi pro-vaccine si BBM. Si Gwen, marunong magdala. Good evening, Anton. Kamusta ang rally kanina? Adrian, good evening, Anton, sa guest. Katrina Sevilla, abangan mo sa September 21 to 28. Ano kaya meron sa September 21 to 28? Sabi ni Philippines, the biblical land of fear. Can you tell about President Duterte's soul before the clones? Duterte's soul. Sigurado. Highway to hell. It's open for Duterte. The highway to hell is open for Duterte. May I ask a question? What is the difference between a psychic and a prophet? O nga naman, ano? Similar. There are similarities siguro, no? Because they can foretell the future. But I could have asked the question directly to Madam Rosa next time, Annie. Do you know how much percentage of people that were on fourth dimension now? Sorry, but we weren't able to address that earlier because Madam Rosa has a prior appointment, and that's why we cannot keep her for 1 hour because in the next hour she would be seeing a client. Annie Jensen, from a point of view of prediction, they may differ in premonition as psychic uses a different medium, whereas prophet is prophetic from Holy Spirit as purse. Okay, thank you for that. Thank you sa question. Thank you sa answer mo, ha. Philippines, the biblical land of Ophir. Thank you, Ophir. Roxette C. You. Hi, Roxette. Good evening. Galvan Etan. Good evening ka, Anton, sa mga panauhin niyo po. Ferdinand Odivelas. Especially to our guest. Good evening. Santa Isela Gilion. True. Brother Francis. The power of love. Edwin Belino. Good evening ka, Anton. Ma'am Rosa. Sir Francis. Nimpa Sigua. Hi, Nimpa. Kamusta ka na, Nimpa? Hitler once said, it's a good thing people are stupid, meaning they are easily brainwashed. Meron yung tinatawag na agnotology. The science of keeping people ignorant. Okay, enjoy sila na ignorant tayo. Hanggang dyan ka lang. Kaalaman mo, hanggang dyan lang. Huwag ka nang lalagpas doon. Kasi pag lumagpas ka, matatalo mo kami. Yan ang tinatawag na agnotology. Ginagamit nila yung ating pagiging ignorante sa advantage nila. Mga bentahoso. Galactic Federation is helping us to defeat this bad alien, sabi ni Bennett. Cesar Uralio, good evening, Madam Rosa. Can I ask, what will happen in the Philippines towards the end of the 2021? Cynthia, best photos watching from La Union. Sayang, hindi natin natanong. At sa susunod, hanap natin. Sir Francis, do you have a practice? I'm an energy healer and would like to call. Nursing practice siya, Nimpa. Nurse Francis. Pero sabi niya, do you have a practice? I'm an energy healer and would like to call. Okay, Nimpa. Lolito Patino, bakit wala sa YouTube ka, Anton Live ngayon? Na-terminate na. Ayaw na ako ng YouTube. Sinipa ako. Controversial figure. Kaya gawa ulit tayong bagong channel. Cecil Parangan Parks yun, October 15, 2021, hopefully. Resita Pareha Kasinsinan. Thank you, Madam Rosa. Yun nga sana makatulong yung kaluluwa. Pwede kaya yun? Sabi niya, hindi nakikialam, hindi ba kayo gumagawa eh. Siguro kung ang initiative galing mismo sa tao, nagpupunyag tapos tatawagan yung mga espiritu, tutulong yon. Pero kung hindi naman kayo humihingi ng tulong, paano kami re-responde? Baka nag-i-enjoy na rin nga kayo. Tama. Hello, Kuya Anton. Yaritek. Ay, kamusta, Lay? Good evening, Nestor Tan. Oy, good evening, Nestor. Anton, Sir Francis with Madam Rosa, thank you for her beautiful and touching words about the positive for the future of our country. Carlos Tornado Go, good evening to you, Carlos. Annie Jensen, thank you all. Thank you too. Thank you, Annie. Some new art, being psychic is all birthright. Makapangyarihan po ang lahat ng tao. Makapangyarihan pa ang lahat ng tao. Ayun. Pero kailangan inahon mo rin yan, no? Pinapolish mo rin yan. Hindi polish, polish. Takot po ang kabal kapag tayo ay magigising. Yun ang problema. Yun ang tanong ko nga sana eh. Kaya hindi ko na-address na tanong ng mahusay eh. Kasi mga kabal gumagamit din ng magic eh. Sigurado yan. Gumagamit ng ritual yan. Pinakakain nila yung si Baal. Ano pinakakain? Baka yung dugo. Kaya maraming na pinapatay. Dahil gusto ni Baal may dugo, may offering. Pero paano natin mapapatigil yun? Kaya kita mo maraming Nasabi nila na nahihimlay o nakikita ng masama pero para sa kanila mabuti pa rin, nabubulagan. Lahat yan nasa impluwensya at sa kapangyarihan ng Baal, ng kabal, kaya nabubulagan yung iba. Tayo na lang natitirang gising. Pero marami, baka unti-unti, mabulaga na rin. Paano ba natin yan mapapahinto, masusupil? Sabi nga anong magagawa natin, Anton? Malit lang tayo. Kalaban natin talagang bulwarte, batres. Wala tayong magagawa. Sumunod na lang tayo. Hindi, teka, may magagawa tayo. Di ba? Kung may marunong lang, paano pabagsakin yung elepante o paano patumbahin si Baal, yung kung sino man yung demonyo na yan, powerful infernal spirit na yan, na sinasamba ng mga kabal, sino man yan, at meron tayong Solomon na magaling magpaamo ng mga terribling demonyo, wala na. Bagsak na sila. Panunumbalik tayo sa magandang kalalagayan. Problema, saan si Solomon? At yun. Takot bang kabal? God bless po, Anton. God bless you too, Roxette. Some new which is happening. The best is yet to come. Kakakilabot ka, Anton. Yan ba ang hudyat? Ng alin? Ng Conrad? Marunong siya. Sabi nga niya, may marunong nag-Harry Potter. Yun na lang daw nakikita niya doon sa mga kabataan na maaring mag-explore ng mga mystical practices na maaring gamitin sa mabuti. Dapat lang sa mabuti. We love you, thank you, Carlos. We love you too, Carlos. Thank you. Tela Andres, good evening. Ate Perla, NCSWIC. What is NCSWIC, Ani? Anton, kapas na ba ng WOTN niya, ng gold quintas niyo? Mahal yan, hindi gold dito. Buto ng sawa. May significance yan, may simbolismo yan . Kaya ako kwinintas para matakot yung mga sawa. Para matakot yung mga ahas. Yung mga namantala sa pandemya. Binibiro mo, hindi nasusuka dun sa kanilang ginagawa. Naghihirap yung mga tao, sila bumili ng Porsche. Itong si Lincoln Ong. Yung mga taga-Parmale, bumili ng Lamborghini. Binibiro mo. May Anton, dito sa amin sa Zamboanga, lockdown na naman bukas, pastilan. Book recommendation, Ascended Masters of the Far East. Parang subukan natin yan. Fernandez Julie, gandang gabi. Rene Magansi, good evening, Anton. Nympha, what is it? Abnorology. Agnotology. Abnorology. Do you need help, Anton? Hindi pa naman. Okay lang. Thank you, Nympha. Thank you. Noli Mendez, good evening sa iyo. Arnel Fernandez, Anton, magandang gabi. Paano ba yung Golden Arenola? Mangyayari pa ba, Anton? Sabi, natapos na itong COVID. Ambot. Wala pa . Kaya nga, tanong ko kay Rosa, uulan ba ng pera? Kailan ba yun? When will it rain money? Zinaida Chang Evangelista, good evening, Anton. Sir Francis and Ma'am Rosa. Michael Daisy Mignon, Anton, need mabasag muna ang mga pader ng mga yan bago makapasok mga gagawing ritual. Kung magsasama-sama lang sana, sabay-sabay tawag sa gabay, malapit na yan. Ang problema, Michael, paano natin isasagawa yung sama-samang panalangin kung hindi tayo mismo ay pinagbabawalan pumasok sa simbahan. Pinagbabawalan tayo magtipon-tipon. Alam na ng kabalyo, pinaghahandaan tayo, kaya nga nilayo na tayo sa Diyos . Walang kongregasyon ang nagtitipon-tipon ngayon, kahit anong relihiyon. Ewan ko lang sa ibang lugar na hindi natin batid, pero sa ating lugar, wala. Ultimo yung Catholic Church, globalized na rin, globalista na rin si Francis. Obax na rin yun. Kabal na rin yun. Pinahihinto yung mga misa. Paano na yan? Importante malaman natin sikreto. Baka may alam ka, Michael Daisy, yung sikreto ng mga kabal. KKK, they are a group of brainwashed people who believe they have supreme race and are privileged. And if other races have more, she take it from them. That they should take it from them. Yung KKK hindi yung katipunan, pero yung Ku Klux Klan, white supremacist clan, yung mga nakasuklob na kulay puti, Ku Klux Klan. Nothing can stop what is coming, ani. May shield mga yan, Anton, mababasag din natin. Paano ba? Paano kaya? May ano yun eh. May shield yan, mukhang makapangyarihan yun eh. Kung alam natin yung gagawin, kung ano yung formula. Alam kaya ni Seth Almonte yun. Baka may kilala kang maestro, Michael. Basagin natin. Pag nabasag yun, tumba. Tumba yung kanilang demonyo. Anton, narinig ko kay Doc Harry na lumabas na ang mga kapirahan ng mga Rodriguez. Di po ba sa magulang daw ni Princess yun? Bakit hanggang ngayon wala pa tayong biyaya? Sabi ni Teresita Pareha Kasinsinan. Tatanong natin kay Princess. Si Haring Solomon lang po ang may kapangyarihang magsama ng mga demonyo espiritu. Tama. Noli Mendes. Yun nandun sa Biblia. Akala niyo si Haring Solomon, limitado lang sa ganon. Kung ano kinento na sa Biblia, sabi marami asawa. Hindi ho. Si Haring Solomon, magikero. The great magician. The greatest magician of all times. Yan. Tama ka, Noli Mendes. Nandun yung kapangyarihan sa Biblia, nandun kay Haring Solomon. Okay. Magikero yan eh. Romana Labay Valdez, Anton, pwede po ba mag-monitor ang mga monitor by May? Pera may batid ng 500 pesos? Ano ba yan? Ano ibig sabihin? Anton, pwede ba mag-monitor? Ang mga monitor ba may, pero may, hindi ko alam, pero si Laroca, kumikilos na naman, Huwag kayo magpapadala na ho dyan sa mga palatag girls na yan, yung mga latagers na yan, Dahil mukhang kumikilos pa, hindi pa rin, pandemya na, nambibiktima pa. Okay, Somnuart, amen. Alright. So, yan ang ating pagtatapos ng ating pagbabasa. Dahil wala nang pumapasok na komentaryo. At by that, I won't take much of your time either. At kaya tayo ay mag-wrap up na. And I'm going to take my ivermectin. Ivermectin night ko ngayon eh. Every week, umiinom ako niyan hanggang para magkaroon ako ng insulation. At sa feeling ko, insulated ako. Government equals slavery, gising po. Tama. Government parang ano rin yan eh, mafia, di ba? Sabi nga ewan ko, nabasa ko lang yun sa internet, sa Facebook. Sabi ng matanda, may picture na caption ng matanda. Sabi niya, mas gugustuhin ko pang magtiwala sa mafia. Doon ako maglagay ng protection money kaysa dun sa gobyerno. Parang ganun din naman ang gobyerno. Pwede naman pong gawin kahit nasa bahay lang, national or global meditation, magkaroon lang ng time setting. Ayan, at wake up call para sa lahat. Siguro pwede natin gawin yun, sa oras na ganito, tayo ay manalangin. Pwedeng gawin yan. Yung orasyon, di ba, dati ganun ginagawa natin. Alas 6, talagang magdadasal ka eh. Pwede rin ngayon gayon. Okay. Sige. At yan lamang po for tonight. Ako'y mag-good night na. Ako'y mag-ivermectin. Kapag nag-ivermectin ako, kailangan ko matulog ng maaga dahil ang tama sa akin nun inaantok. Alright. Annie, thank you for everything you do, Anton. Thank you so much, Annie, for the appreciation that you're expressing at the moment. That you have expressed at the moment. I'll try to speak more English But, my tongue is twisted. Anton, pwede ba mag-monitor ang mga doktor sa mga outpatient para may bayad na 500 kada araw? O mas mabuti pa, pa-monitor mo na lang. Pero yung kumuha ka ng serbisyo na meron naman na outpatient para dun sa mga bahay, sa bahay na lang minamanage kung COVID man yan. Okay yan. Ha? Mag-monitor ang mga doktor sa mga outpatient pero may bayad kada araw 500. Kung outpatient dun sa bahay nyo, okay na yan. Kaysa naman doon ka sa loob ng ospital. No? Hindi mo alam kung anong gagawin ng ginagawa dun sa loob ng ospital. Kaya maraming didisgrasya lalo kasi hindi nababantayan eh. Si Conde, thank you. Good night, Banji. Kay Kawilan, Ochoa, kay Anton, mag-set ka ng schedule, common time para tayo sabay-sabay magdasal. Kawilan, Ochoa, sabay-sabay nga tayo magdadasal, pero kailangan natin yung tamang dasal. Kaya kailangan may magko-compose at uniforme. Ito ang tamang dasal. Ano ba yan? English, Tagalog, Latin? Yun, ganun yun. Ay pag tama yung nakuha natin yung tumbok yung mga dasal na yan. Naku po! Masusunog yung headquarters ng mga kabal. Good evening po sa lahat. Pag may magturo lang, pababain natin yung alien. Do a show on spiritual encounters. Sige, Nimfa. Sige. Kakuha tayo ng Mukhang doon ako kaysa sa politika. Hindi ako magaling dyan eh. Mas mahal sa spiritual encounters. Recommend po Pranic Healing Community. Nandyan din sila sa Iloilo. Okay, sige. So, bigyan nyo ako ng mga resources. They're doing miracles there. Anton, saan po ba pwede makabili ng ivermectin? Kay Dr. Landrito, cdcph.org. Kay Alan Landrito, doon po kayo, may kasamang consultation na yan, 350 lang naman. Pero kung ivermectin lang, mas mura ho doon kaysa doon sa butika. Mas mura kay Dr. Landrito. Alan Landrito. Landrito ako. Garlic and aspirin for homeopathy. Homeopathy for COVID. Ayun. Garlic and aspirin for homeopathy for COVID. Thank you, Nimfa. Mas mabisa po ang sariling lingwahe natin. At paano mag-comment? Sabi ni Perla. Address. Paano mag-comment? Ito na yung comment. Okay, sige. Good night. Until sa susunod. Tingnan natin kung paano natin sisimulan yung spiritual. Tatanong natin kung paano. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.